this TBR Takedown episode, we are going to be reading the books that I specifically bought because they were pretty. I'm a little magpie. I like things that are shiny, that are gold, that are pretty, that are pretty. And what can I say? Sometimes I buy books that are pretty, even if I don't necessarily know that I'm gonna like them. So let's talk about the pretty books in my TBR. Now, spoiler alert, I have in fact started this book and I'm in fact DNFing it. So we can start off this vlog with one book down already. And that is making me feel a little bit disappointed because this book is so pretty, but also really motivated to continue, which I will take. The Sons of Darkness. This book, I was really intrigued by it because it essentially is based in Indian mythology and it's kind of a retelling of some of those items. Unfortunately, I picked this book up, I started reading it, I listened to the audiobook a little bit, I switched to the ebook reading it. I got about like 20 pages in and I was not vibing. I was not, unfortunately. And look, like this book is so pretty with the gold and little swirls and the sprayed edges. Like I love this aesthetically. The very first female that we are introduced to, she is described as a harsh woman with like a beak nose, and the only saving grace is that she got her mother's hair, but like also she was the ugliest person you've ever seen. And I was kind of like, oh, that does not bode well. My brain just wasn't really grabbed after that, and so we called it. However, this is a really pretty book. I'm glad I at least tried it, though I'm hoping that the rest of the TBR bodes better than this book did. The rest of the TBR being, we have some options. Okay, let's start with here. I feel like Samantha Shannon has some of the prettiest hardcovers you will ever see. The Priory of the Orange Tree, I DNF'd, so I don't know what that bodes well for this. And another book by Samantha Shannon, we have The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. You get it at this point. I was really intrigued, very interested in reading The Bone Season, and then that was right before it was announced that it was going to be redesigned and republished and re-edited and things. So I decided to hold off before reading this book, and I still haven't read it. Okay, then a couple other books. I do have Shadow Fever as an option. This is an Arcane special edition. Every time I look at this book, I just get very giddy and very excited because I love. This is the last book in the series, and I need to finish the series, and it's a pretty book. So I figured, maybe it could be relevant for this video. I don't know, we'll find out. The Games Gods Play is actually the whole inspiration for this episode idea because it's like, you can't tell me that this is not, like, it's the sprayed edge for me. Some of them are not that good. This one is so good to me. And book 2 is coming out in November and we're getting kind of close. So like, I feel like I need to read it and I feel like I'm gonna have a really good time with it. And then the last book, it's almost becoming a joke on my channel at this point. Shield of Sparrows by Devaney Perry. I read 30% of it back in May, put it down for a little bit, never got back to it. I keep saying that I'm going to get back to it and I keep not getting back to it. So we're going to do it. I think that this is one of the prettiest, like, hello, like, I love the green. Green is my favorite color. I love the florals. I think that this is the prettiest book that Red Tower has done so far, and I haven't read it yet. And unfortunately, I have 2 copies. I have my first edition that I bought, and then I found a signed edition. So it's imperative that I do in fact read this book. So for this week, we have some options. We're going to read some pretty books, and hopefully the pretty books will be as pretty on the inside as they are on the outside. I have started what is technically the first book in this vlog, and I am already at 60%. Reason being, I started this while I was at work yesterday, and I was having such a good time, and the pages were just flying, and I was like, wait, this is a vibe. I need to stop and update the friends at lunch. And I started the laundry during one of my breaks, and then all of a sudden I heard this really loud bang, and I was like, okay, we're gonna ignore that. So all of a sudden though, I started just like there was a smell, like things were just smelling fresh. Things were smelling good. There was a cleaning product kind of smell. I was like, what is happening? Did I not wash soap all the way off my hands? Like, what is going on here? And then I went to go change the laundry. The brand spanking new, very large container of laundry detergent that I just opened. I managed to leave it hanging off the washing machine a little bit too far, and while the washing machine was doing its thing, it knocked the detergent off into the floor of my laundry room. Like, I understand, like, dear universe, I know that the laundry room's getting a little dusty, and I know that it needed to be refreshed, okay? I prefer a less direct approach. Just throw that out there. Anyways, so I had to clean up that during lunch instead, and then I ended up having a very worky evening last night, and I was kind of like, well, so we're here now. Anyways, The Games Gods Play by Abigail Owen. Our girl, Lyra, she has been nominated, volunteered as tribute by Hades to participate in this contest in which we are trying to crown the next king of the gods. The gods are not allowed to fight based on how big fight and big wars happen when gods fight, so they pick humans to kind of be their representatives. And Lyra, out of completely nowhere, she's like, listen, I'm literally just a girl. Like, I do work in a thieving guild, but like, I'm just a clerk at the guild. Like, I'm not an actual thief though. Like, wait, why are you, hold up. Like, I don't like, what? I'm a little confused here and I don't understand. Now, she actually at birth was cursed by Zeus to never be loved by anyone. And she is going to Zeus's temple to basically knock on his door and say, hey, brother, fix me or else. And like, I've had enough. And she happens to run into Hades and she's like, that is Hades. Like, and he's watching me trying to throw a rock at Zeus's temple. Like, this is not good. And my bad. And he lets her go and she's like, oh, great, cool. And then the next thing you notice, she's getting nominated as his tribute and she's like, hold the phone. So we have a very reluctant, like, what is going on here? I'm very unprepared. But like Hades, I don't know him, but like, he's kind of hot. Kind of setup that's going on here. I'm very much so entertained by the overall plot in this book because we are taking like a Greek mythology template and a retelling which has been done before, but we're putting in the setting of a contest in which each god basically picks one of the trials. So the trials themselves are very interestingly themed. We're getting to see some allies being made. I'm entertained. I feel like the contests themselves are actually really, really easy to visualize and they make sense in my head. Like, I feel like I really like books with trials, but sometimes the trials just don't make sense. This is making sense. So bonus points for that. However, a lot of the Greek mythology retellings, they're in kind of a romantasy format, tend to be a Hades and Persephone retelling. But in this world, I'm not going to spoil exactly how it's different. It just is different, and I still have a lot of intrigue as to what's going on, what's the overall plot, who is our girly. Like, I've got some theories. So the fact that I am thinking of theories, I'm having really fun with these little competitions. I've read 60% in like a day. Yeah, this is going really well for me. Alrighty, folks, we have finished the games gods play, and games they do in fact play. I knew that this was just gonna be a silly goofy little time that I would in fact enjoy, and guess what, I was right. Mostly I think that I thought that this was gonna be a 5-star. This was not a 5-star. This is definitely a 4-star, but I really did have so much fun with this book. While it is a setting and a mythology retelling that I feel like has been done quite a lot, it does so in a way that is a little bit different, and that little bit different makes it so much more fun and more entertaining, and not just yet another Greek mythology retelling. And because it wasn't just yet another retelling, like there were some fun elements, I got the fun elements, and then I was just able to let the Greek mythology portion of it just be like fun, comforting, nostalgic Greek mythology. Like, I just think that this book was so fun, and I am so intrigued to see how the heck book 2 is going to pick up, because with books that are trial based in general, like once book 1 where the trials happen is over, like what do we do in the next book? Do we do more trials? Do we do something else entirely? I feel like there is so much there's so many directions that book 2 could go, but then where we specifically left off in book 1, we've got some things to figure out. I remember looking at this way back when and then didn't put 2 and 2 together about it, but this book is actually blurbed by a certain author by the certain name of Daphne Perry. I remember reading this and thinking, huh, that's interesting. She does romantic suspense, not fantasy. Why are they having her blurb a fantasy book? That's interesting. So I guess it's time to read Shield of Sparrows. Anyways, as far as the audiobook goes, I did like the audiobook. I did definitely find myself really wanting to pick this book up physically, and I think there is something to be said for listening to an audiobook and being like, wait, no, I need to be even more immersed in this world. I need to be staring at this with my eyeballs. That to me, when my brain does that, that tells me that I'm really liking a book, and my brain did it with this one. So I do think the audiobook was good. It was definitely fun, and I think that this is a good audiobook to hear, because as you go through the trials, the people in this contest are basically like reality TV stars, because everybody wants to know who's going to be the next king of the gods. Like, it's just going to be a reality TV event. Like, this only happens every 100 years. We better film it, right? And so listening to that very much so lent itself towards the reality TV show silly goofiness of it all. So we're giving this book a 4-star, and we have yet again checked off another book from my physical TBR. So let's pick off the next one. Go team, go. long time no see, friends. I actually started this vlog it was earlier in the summer, and I never really returned back to it. And that is just because there's been such new, fun, shiny that I have really just wanted to give my TBR a little bit of a pause and just go have some fun, go read some other things, and then circle back. So we are now circling back to my physical TBR, and we are reading the pretty books, okay? So there are 2 books in particular, 2 of them that I've actually already started. So we've got some lot of things. We've got some things to talk about. So number 1, when I think about pretty books on my TBR and pretty editions, the Fever series every time. Last night, managed to read from about, I think, 9% to almost halfway. Okay, I have some thoughts here. The thoughts are that I am conflicted. So overall, I do still think that I'm gonna rate this book highly just because it is in a series that I have really, really loved. However, there is a lot of telling and recapping that happens at the beginning of this book. While I do appreciate the recapping because I did read book 4 back in like August or something. No, it was way longer than that. I don't know. I think that it was a little bit much and a little bit heavy-handed, and there were definitely parts where I was just like falling asleep. Like, can we hurry it up here just a little bit? Can we get to the fun parts? Can we get to the part that I am needing? Okay, there is also, I know a lot of people talk about Dani. So in this series we have a kind of like younger sidekick character that's introduced, and she is actually the POV for the later installments in this series. She's 13, she's almost 14, and she's cringe. She's supposed to be cringe, but the amount of cringe that she is in this book is quite hefty, and it's quite heavy-handed. And the fact that we're getting so much Dani, I'm like, can we just get rid of Dani? Can we, like, I know that she's supposed to be fun and spunky, but like, I don't want fun and spunky right now. I want the main story. I want what's happening here. Okay. So now that we've gotten rid of some of the intro cringe Dani parts, once you finally get rid of the first, like, I don't know, probably the first 25% or so, that's a really rough estimation. It's probably not that at all. I was screaming, I was giggling, I was kicking my feet, I was fist pumping in the air. I quite literally gasped. All the dogs looked at me. It was kind of a whole moment last night because the things that we have been waiting for are still not happening. Like, they're happening, but they're also not. But it's just so... We talked about angst, and we talk about tension, and we talk about longing. I am doing those things towards these characters, and it's not like I'm watching these characters do it and I'm like, oh yeah, I really want this. I really wish that they could have their longing satisfied. Like, oh, I'm longing along with them. No, it's me. I'm the only longer here. I'm the only longer, the longing, the person who's longing. I am all of those things. So overall, so far, I'm about halfway through this book. I feel like the pacing's definitely gotten a lot better. I feel like it has not been so aggressive throughout the rest of the series, but there are definite comments and phrases and little sidebar jokes and things that definitely feel like this book was written a while ago, in the terms of like, we would not say these things now. Like, Dani at one point was talking about how she thought that her friends were lesbo for each other, and as long as they didn't do any of those weird lesbo things around her, she was okay with them. There was another character that very much so was like, oh, that's Dani, like, she has no tact. And I understand that, but it also was kind of like, oh, this book was like, this is not a new book. This was definitely an older publishing. You get what I'm saying. Anyways, I'm reading this. I'm having a good time. Look at how pretty she is. Welcome back to the pretty TBR takedown. As you can see here, I did get something in the mail today. Now, do I think that I'm going to read this book anytime soon? No. Is that kind of the problem that we are trying to resolve in this episode? Yes. So, it's okay because I'm prepared for my next adventure. So this book is from The Broken Binding. I pre-ordered this so long ago. Okay. The camera doesn't quite do it fully justice, but I think this is one of the most beautiful, stunning books that has really ever existed, if I'm being honest. The original cover, this is Blood Over Brighthaven by Emma Long. I've heard really good things about. The original cover is just like kind of okay to me. This is beautiful. This is a book that I've actually had on my TBR for a minute because I do know that so many people have read and really, really, really loved this book. And I just want to be one of those people that have read and really loved this book. So in order to do that, I kind of have to read the book. I have a feeling I'm going to be reading this book sooner rather than later. Probably not in this vlog. Ooh, okay. I love the art. She's very beautiful to me. So in an unsurprising twist of fate, we have added yet another book to the TBR, but at least it sounds pretty. Alrighty, folks. You guys have been made aware by me to you that I am really needing to read a certain little book by a certain little name of, maybe you guessed it, maybe you didn't, but I have finally picked up Empire the Vampire. I'm currently roughly around the 25% mark. I have been listening to the audiobook. I really like the audiobook. So Gabriel De Leon, he is a silver saint, and you can kind of think of that as kind of like a vampire hunter. We get some more lore. There's definitely significant more lore, but for the purposes of this explanation, that'll do. He has spent his whole life hunting down vampires, and he has now been captured by vampires, and there is the current vampire that he's being imprisoned by. He's being imprisoned by a group, but the current vampire is like, hey, the queen, our fearless leader, wants to know all about your story, so you're going to tell me your story like I'm 5, and I'm going to write down all these facts. So we are in the perspective of Gabriel's story, and it kind of switches back and forth every now and then between us being the perspective of him living those times and then us being taken back out of, oh, hey, we're telling a story here, which I'm finding to be a really interesting story format, especially from the perspective of watching this guy's life go by, because there are a couple times in which he doesn't really follow chronologically, and it really builds up a lot of intrigue. During the course of his life, he has been forced to not only challenge his own religious beliefs, but challenge what he as a human being is going to do within regards to his abilities as a silver saint, but then also what he personally believes as far as his religion, his morals, his rights and wrongs, all those really good, very important things. His relationship with his mentor, we get to learn a little bit more about. His other relationships in general. I want to keep this as vague as possible, because I think figuring out the different elements of Gabriel's life has been really interesting so far. And I do feel as if that storytelling could come across a little bit boring in certain circumstances, because you're just like, okay, I'm getting this guy's story, like, who is he? But I think because the way that the order is switched around, like, he'll tell you his childhood, he'll jump to his like early adolescence, and then he'll jump to him as adult, and then the vampire that's interviewing him is like, hey, wait, go back to that part because you totally just, you like ruined the storytelling. And he's like, well, I had to like give you a little bit of intrigue, right? So I think because we are jumping around a little bit, we are really trying to connect the dots between how he began as a child and then how he got to where he was. And yeah, we know where he was, but like, how did he get there? And we are also put in the landscape of this really kind of apocalyptic world in which basically the sun is pretty much gone. It's a really dark world. Things are really bleak. We have vampires that are not the geeky, like romantic vampires. These are the very undead, blood-sucking, scary, evil, bad guys that we have to kill at all costs, right? So I think that there's a lot of conversations around good versus evil. There's a lot of conversations around religion, which I do find particularly interesting, especially set in fantasy worlds, and how these kind of fantastical religion systems can be then compared to modern day and like current religious structures. So I think that on one hand, he's not, but I also think that the way that J. Kristoff is doing it, he's not being like, hi, I'm going to talk about religion. He's like, hey, I'm going to talk about good versus evil, and how this one person's devotion to his idea of good has brought him along on this journey, and how all these other people can contribute to it. So I think there's just really deep conversations to be had, and a lot of really good comparisons that you can make towards the real world, but then also, if you wanted to, you could just have it be a fiction story. So overall, I'm actually really surprisingly into this book. I figured that I would like it, but I also figured it would be a little bit more brain heavy. It's really not. The writing itself is very easy to understand. It also does help that I'm listening to the audiobook, but I do think that the overall storytelling, because he's trying to explain to this vampire, like he'll be telling him a story about a fledgling, and then the vampire will pop in and be like, hey, I need you to explain what a fledgling is. And Gabriel is like, hey, dog, you're literally a vampire. Why do I need to explain what a fledgling is to you? And he's like, explain to me like I'm a child. And so this kind of back and forth really is able to break down some of the more complex elements, and the complex elements that we're getting to isn't even really complex, but it's just kind of world building type things, and I'm really just enjoying overall the story format as well as the story content. The plot has been really interesting, and I think because of the structure, we know where we got. Well, it's more like we started here. Are we going this direction? We'll go this direction. So this is baby. This is adult death, okay? We go from here's where he started, here's how he grew up, to his adolescence, and then we get like here. We don't really know how we got to current day and what's going to happen next, but we're here, but we don't know what all of this stuff in the middle is, so he's kind of just going back and forth, and it's just really interesting. So overall, I'm really glad to be picking this up. I do think that as an audiobook, yet again, it's really interesting because we are being told a story. So I really feel immersed in the storytelling aspect and the structure of this book because I am listening to it. I think the narrator is doing a really good job. There are certain accented pieces in which they're like French, and he's talking in a French accent, and I think it's just getting a little spice to the book. I think it's just really fun. I think I'm having a really good time. I'm kind of surprised that I have waited so long hello, to pick this book up, but I also think because I was waiting for a moment like this. So I think right time. Will it be the right book? Don't know. Right time? Yes. My time reading the Fever series has officially come to a close, and I am so sad about it. I just 5 stars. Okay, the whole series 5 stars. This book, we're going to talk about this book specifically here in just a second with the most spoiler-free terms that I can. However, the entire series, the plot, the characters, the romance, the plot, the characters, the magic system, the lore. I love the lore, okay? There's so much about this series that I loved. This is a series that I definitely will continue to think about and will continue to think about and continue to think about. Like, I finished it. I did not finish, you know, that kind of vibe. However, this particular book, it was good. It wasn't great. I think it would have been better if I would have read it closer to finishing book 4. However, the beginning of this book picks up in the most iconic place, and then we have to kind of get our ducks in a row, figure out some things and finalize some things so we can finalize the rest of the book. And in that process, I think there were pieces that we probably could have I mean, okay, Danny. We've already talked about my feelings about Danny. I love Danny. Danny, however, is written very cringe, very immature, very early 2000s slang, very early 2000 Irish slang. And it's just, she's a really hard character to connect with. And a lot of this book is placed in Danny's POV, given that the subsequent installments in this series, this is kind of like the ending of this main series, but then there's a continuation from Danny's POV. We had to spend so much time in our head so that we could kind of propel the story into the next half of it, and I understand that. I do just kind of wish Danny was less annoying and that we didn't have to go that direction necessarily. However, that was my only complaint. The magic system. We got so much information. We got so many questions that we have been waiting for across the span of 4 books prior to this book. We got answers to them. We got the romance, folks. We finally got it. If you are a fan of slow burn, this one right here, folks. This has been the most slow burn of all slow burn books, of all the series, of all the slow burns. I have some questions still, and most of those questions will, I assume, be resolved in the rest of the series. There's a big problem in this initial series that we are needing to solve, but we haven't dealt with the fallout from that, and I'm so curious to see the fallout. So I initially said that I was not going to read the subsequent installments in this series, but like low-key, I'm kind of curious. So mayhaps I will continue that next year. Perhaps I won't. However, I will continue to think about the series because it's gonna live in my head rent-free forever. I do feel like this series is for a particular type of person. This is not going to be for everyone. I do definitely think that you should try it if you're at all interested. If by hemming and hawing over the last, like, really this summer, if that didn't get to you by this point, maybe let this be your sign yet again to pick the series up and just give it a go, because I loved it. I really did. There's so many very micro pieces of the series that I really connect to and that I really loved. And then just getting to see the overall full picture resolve itself, love. So I'm glad that I finished the series this year. I'm really glad that I put my foot down. I was like, okay, that's gonna be on the checklist. There's a little nugget of information that we get that explains a certain character in this book that just absolutely changed the game for how I considered this character. Like, I knew that this character was the way that they were because of a particular reason, but then we find out the reason, and it was truly incredible. And I just think that this finale, while there were pieces that I did not necessarily enjoy, and I was kind of like, okay, I'm over it. The overall, I was screaming, I was cheering, I was chanting. There were so many really full circle moments that were just incredible and things that I really wanted for these characters. Those things happened. And then we also got a lot of new information that I was not anticipating getting. And I'm just like, we finally got some answers to things that we've been asking for 4 books. For 4 books, we've been asking these questions. And in the 5th, we finally got the answers. And I'm just feeling like I'm a series girl. So when it comes to what I'm actually going to rank this book, I'm unsure because I think I'm going to rate it a 4-star. I think I'm gonna rate it a 4-star. This book itself was not a 5-star, again, because of the Danny portions, but like the rest of it, I really did love. So I love this series. You should definitely check it out, and I may even continue checking the series out by reading, I think Iced is the next book in Danny's POV, and I know that she gets older and gets less cringe as time goes on, but like it was, I wanted to just like hug her and just tell her to stop talking at certain points. We shall see how that goes. However, we have book number 2 for this vlog down. Book number 3, a book that I've already told you about. So sorry that this vlog has probably been all kinds of over the place because I have been reading these 2 books at the same time. Reading a really big chunky fantasy books, I have found they go best with silly goofy books. I really just think that it helps me to feel like I'm making progress, but also that I'm not just like so lost in the sauce and I'm still having fun. I have found that I really like pairing these more big boy, chunky epic fantasies with more, and not that this book is silly goofy, but just like things that I can read quicker, more fast-paced things. I like that system quite a lot. However, I have about 4 hours left in the audiobook at this current moment in time. So far, audiobook review, I really like the audiobook. I do think it is kind of a harder way to read the series because if you happen to miss a teeny tiny line, you would have missed the entire context for the part in the story that we're circling back to. There have definitely been quite a few times that I've had to skip back and go re-listen to parts. However, I do think that listening to a story being told to you about someone else's life by that person, I feel like has been really fun. And then also this has been a really good road trip read. If I was not listening to this on a road trip read, this would have made the absolute perfect immersive read. So far I'm just like, wow, this right here is epic literature. Like there's just so much that's happening. You're getting to watch this one character go throughout his whole life and getting to see all these different pieces and all these people and how, like, why we're here, but then also what we're going, what we're doing. What is this world? This world is so freaking cool. There is so much Christianity lore that we're basing the magic system in this story. So it's really interesting to kind of compare that. I'm not down bad yet, okay? I'm not broken. But the part that I just left off at is like, excusez-moi, hello, what? Who was gonna tell me that we were going there? Who was gonna tell me? Who was gonna tell me that just happened? However, I am sad that I have not been listening to the audiobook because I've not been able to take as good advantage of looking at all the really pretty art. So I'm gonna sit here, I'm probably gonna flip through the pretty pictures and catch up to where I am in the audiobook, and then I'll also update where my bookmark is, and then hopefully finish out Empire of the Vampire. Alrighty friends, I have officially finished The Empire of the Vampire. I have so many thoughts that the concept of even beginning to wrap my brain around the number of thoughts is incredible. It also begs the question for me, for you guys, how much details do you like me to tell? Because I feel like, especially with this book, there's so much that I want to analyze and discuss and just like bring up. However, I'm very sensitive to spoilers. I generally prefer to only discuss like, hey, I'm having a good time. Like, I'm really liking this book. The pacing's good. Let's talk about the plot. Let's talk about the character development in the most vague of terms. But I feel like that lends itself to being really vague sometimes. And then I go back and edit vlogs and I'm like, wow, the only thing that I said was I'm having a good time. And I would like to, sometimes I would like to not do that. I also really prefer this to be a spoiler-free place. So, I would love to have your input in the comments down below. I like to know literally nothing about the books that I read before I go into them because I want to be surprised in the right places. I want to not know what's going on. I want to figure things out for myself. And watching somebody talk through a lot of details doesn't always give me the freshest impression of a book. So if you would like to know nothing as well, feel free to stop watching this vlog at this point. Just know that I absolutely loved Empire of the Vampire, and you can stop watching here. Thanks so much. Have a great day. And now for the details. So this book is the kind of book that just sparks so much questions in your brain, and it makes you think about so many theories and different things about life in general, to the point where I end up googling, is J. Kristoff religious? And apparently he grew up with a religious background. There's no comment on what he currently is, but he does have that religious background. And if you're someone who was raised in the church, you get it. So many of what he's saying, you just get, and man, do I just get, because Gabriel is basically going through some things in which he has been incredibly devout. He was raised in religion. He very firmly believed in what he believed in, and great, cool, whatever. And then throughout the course of his life, so many bad things happened to him that made him question religion and altogether lose his faith. So one of the themes in this entire book is being so devout but losing that religion, and then just kind of being lost and not really knowing what to do now that the moral compass that you have in your entire life been connected to, and you have known what's right via that moral compass. If you no longer believe in that compass is no longer pointing the direction that you thought it was. What do you do? So there were many parts of me that really connected to Gabriel just throughout the course of his faith and like figuring things out and just being lost in the sauce. And I just connected with a lot of that. There's also this really big question of why do bad things happen to quote unquote good people. That is a very, very large topic of discussion in many a circle. And I don't know that there's ever really an answer to that. I mean, there are answers that I believe in, but there's no concrete evidence. Like, it just kind of sucks, right? So you're watching this character really suffer the brunt of that, I don't know, eventuality, that statement, that certainty in this world. And it was really interesting to explore that within the context of a fictional fantasy. I also think that within the context of a fictional fantasy, there's so many full circle moments that J. Kristoff was really able to put into this book. So many statements, so many themes really just kind of came together in the most. I want to like shake my fist in the air. I want to scream. I want to just riot. I have all of these feelings, and I want to have all these feelings. While these feelings are not good necessarily, because he really explores some deep, dark depth in this book. There are definitely highs, and there are some big fat freaking lows. And watching Gabriel through most of his lows in his life and through some of the really big lows in his life, that's the whole book. So it was not a lighthearted read for sure. Okay, I definitely think that there were pieces to Gabriel that I did not connect with. And while I don't think he's just the most perfect character, I think that this is just such a unique book. I know that there are books that explore similar themes, but I just feel like in this, there's just not as many, and there's not as many in this context. So that being said, Gabriel definitely is the focus of this book, but there are also several other characters that I was really intrigued by. Dior, like, I can't get over Dior. And I have so many questions. Where we left off in this book, I wasn't really sure where in the chronological storytelling we were going to leave off in this book. And it's definitely interesting because we have still not caught up to the present. And I've seen from other people reading book 2 that we do not catch up to the present in book 2 ever. So I'm curious to see like what is the storyline here. This is the kind of story that we could have left off. I don't know. We could have taken out like 2/3 of the book, and then we could have put whatever plot he's gonna put into the trilogy. Like, this could have been all combined into a really chunky standalone. But I think because it's not, we're really able to explore scenes, and it's just like trauma after trauma after trauma in a really interesting way that doesn't feel trauma dumpy. Like, every scene, while it is really chunky, does really feel purposeful. So we're getting this really overarching story, and we're kind of catching up into different points in this plot, but it does feel purposeful. It doesn't just feel like this book could have been shorter and it could have been an email kind of thing. It feels like every scene had an intention, and every scene itself really is just contributing towards the character development and the plot development and all the development that we're getting that is just breaking me in half. So I am so glad being questionable. Like, this is not like, oh, I'm so elated to read this book. The feelings that I felt while I read this book were not just like elated, silly goofy. They were definitely like deep dark. This man is questioning everything, and some really terrible things happen to him, and really terrible things continue to happen to him, because you know where he ends up currently. We don't know if that's the current. Are we gonna have some sort of like resolution to that? We don't know. So we're just like, well, I need to know what's happening to baby boy. So I'm really glad that I read this book. I do wish that I had immersive read it a bit more. So when I pick up Empire of the Damned, I will definitely do more of an immersive read, because the illustrations made it. It really made it. Not only did it give you context and kind of just more of a visceral imagery, I guess, of the scene that was happening, but some of the images added a little bit more detail that you didn't necessarily get from the original. And not that you didn't get it, but it was just like adding another layer. In one of these scenes, it was really deep dark, and then in the corner we would have a statue crying, and looking at that statue cry, are you kidding me? So anyways, I had a really good fun time with Empire of the Vampire. I do think that because I had read it solely audiobook, I don't think I can give it a full 5-star, but I also kind of want to. So I think I'm going to stick with the 4.5 for now. And then if I feel like rounding up, if I just keep thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it, which I very well might, I might round it up to a 5-star. Not really sure about the details there, but overall, I really enjoyed it. And that is the end of reading our pretty books. I say end because there are definitely infinitely more pretty books that I own that I haven't read. Whatever, Bright Haven, I'm looking at you. However, we made some really good progress, and we definitely checked off some really big books that are beautiful. That is absolute shame that they have been just rotting on my physical TBR. If you made it this far into the video, go ahead and leave a blood drop emoji. If you like this video, I will link the TBR Takedown playlist down below, but don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for future videos. Anyways, thank you so much for watching TBR Takedown episode 4. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night wherever you are, and I will catch you in the next one.